Welcome back. Justin Tucker here. In this video tutorial, we're going to go over kind of what I'm calling the last step um, in approaching building with Drupal in kind of a logical way to get started. And it's a pretty broad step. Determine how to display your content. And this, to be fair to y'all, this really dives into a bunch of other stuff, but at the same time, I think that's kind of where you're at this point. So we have, let's just go back and look. I say step 6, begin building, okay. But determining how to display your content is kind of where we're at right now. But we've created content types, identified categories, added fields to those content types, identified user roles we're going to need, and have set basic permissions so far against them. And now we need to determine how to display our content. And again, the rabbit hole here is deep. So I will try and be as efficient as I can. When it comes to displaying your content, and I'm back here in my demo site, you're going to have quite a few tools. One of the basic tools that comes with Drupal is called blocks. Okay, so just to warn you, this video is going to be a lot of me talking and just showing you different things and different options. Subsequent videos, we're actually going to dive into each one of these areas and actually do something with them or build something with them. But I wanted to give you a conceptual overview of the building tools you've got with Drupal um, out of the box. So blocks is one of these things, and it's pretty straightforward. On the left-hand side here, you have what's called regions, and the regions would be header, help, highlighted, features, content. The items underneath of it, which are drag and drop, by the way, are elements on your website, and you basically tell them which region you want to show. So, for example, here in our sidebar first region, we have a search form, our navigation menu, and our user login form. These other regions here are clearly not being used. And then we have disabled blocks. So there's a bunch of different blocks down here that aren't even enabled or we're not even making use of. But we certainly can. We can either drag and drop this block to show in the right region. We can click on this drop down and choose the region we want to show from here, or we can click on configure and go into this block and change some things inside here. Before we get into that, you may be asking yourself, well, how do I know what regions are available on the template that I'm using? So this kind of backs us up. I'm going to open up this Appearance tab in another window. Drupal calls its templates themes. Um, and the best way to look at a theme, while that's loading, is to pretend that a theme is like the clothes in your closet. The two arms, two legs, the body, the torso, the head that you have all stay the same whether you're in workout clothes or whether you're in, formal wear. Okay, so the clothes are best looked at as or clothes are best looked at as like the template or the theme of your website. And Drupal treats it a lot like that, meaning the content of your website, the words that they say, the menu items that take you there, the names of those menu items, the different ways you display your content, all that's going to be preserved, but how it actually gets rendered and how it actually looks to the user right before it's presented is what goes on in this appearance area. And this is pretty much like opening a closet, and these other ones down here are like clothes we're not using in our closet. Okay, and then right here is the current outfit we have on. This is just the default theme that comes with Drupal 7 called Bartik, and it's very clean. So the idea here, why I'm showing you this, is if I activate another template, each template will typically have different regions on it with different names in different places. That's one of the properties of the template. So back here on the blocks page, there's a tab here that says demonstrate block regions for the Bartik theme, right? If I told another theme to be active, usually those regions will not be the same. So I'm going to open this in a new window, and basically you'll see the template with yellow highlighted areas everywhere there is what's called a region. And so the question is, let's pretend I want to show the block, I don't know, who's online, and I want it to show at the bottom, but I don't know what region that is. I'm going to go to this other tab I opened, and I'm going to look near the bottom, and I've got this, I don't even know how to say that, first, middle, and last item, and I'm going to tell this who's online to be in that first. And you'll notice it moves it for me, and there it is. We got the who's online. I'm going to put, I don't know, the user menu in the middle. Probably going to change all this later. This probably isn't the greatest idea. Recent comments. Well, let's do recent content in the last. So there's that region, there's that region, there's that region, there's the module that is going to show under it, or I'm sorry, the block that is going to show under it. And as you can see, each block is kind of a specialty thing, meaning each one will do its own task, own thing. Obviously, this block is going to show us who's online right now. This block is going to show us the user menu, and this block is going to show us recent content we've posted. And I'll save this. And let's just go to our home page and see what happened there. And if I go down, there's these three blocks. Again, doesn't look too great, but it illustrates why we see those three things under these three areas. I'm sorry, these three areas. And that's how that works. This is very similar to Joomla, for all you Joomla users. In Joomla, blocks are called modules, and modules in Drupal are called components in Joomla, or extensions in Joomla. Extensions in Joomla actually encompass components, modules, and plugins. But so there is some overlap of the semantics of the vocabulary words being used, and the word module is one of those big ones that can cause confusion. So if you're in the Drupal world, a module is equivalent to a component or an extension in Joomla world, and a module or a block in Drupal world is equivalent to a module in Joomla world. So I know that can be confusing, but in Joomla, a module is a box that you can move around your site. In Drupal, a block is a box you can move around your site. And of course, what goes on in that box is what that is the specialty functionality that goes with it. But in in Joomla, you have the ability to say, I would like it to show top, bottom, left, or right, in the middle, kind of a thing, and also go in and define which pages I want it to show on or not show on. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at that. Drupal is really nice in that you may have noticed by now there really is no backend per se. So for example, with WordPress and with Joomla, you can log into the front end and have an experience, and you can log into the back end, which is where you have the ability to use the administration area to build your site. With Drupal, they're one and the same, meaning you notice that minus this top bar, not a whole lot of other differences in the way the website looks, except for little things like when I'm logged in, I get this gearbox where I can just directly go to a piece of content and choose to edit or delete it. In this case, instead of dooming me to go structure, blocks, that's 2 clicks, and then go find the block, 3 clicks. Okay, Drupal's very nice to you, and you're like, well, this needs adjustment. For some reason, let's say for some reason I don't want recent content to show on the first page. Okay, don't know why, but let's just say that's what I want to do. I just go to the block and hit configure block. Let me close out these other windows real quick here. And when I'm in this block, I can give it a title. If I put none here, it will give no title. Um, and you can kind of read how to control your title. I mean, maybe I want to say latest content instead of recent content. So instead of it saying recent on the previous page, it would have said latest. So we'll leave that as it is. Number of recent items to display. And this is kind of a basic block that Drupal gives you. It asks you, do you want to change the region settings? No, that's fine. But these visibility settings, these are really cool If you're a Joomla user, you're used to modules or boxes you can move around to you have the ability to say show or not show on these pages. Well, with Drupal, you can go steps further. You can say not only show or not show on these pages, and I said I don't want it to show on the home page. The home page always on your site, and we'll get to how you can control your home page, or what I more specifically like to call your first page on your website. But whatever that link is and however we configure it, by putting front here, it's Drupal's way of saying it doesn't matter what the URL is, if it's told to be the first page a person sees, that's what this front tag is for. So I'm going to say all pages of the website except the very first one. Again, don't know why I do that, I just want to make the example. But we can also do fun things like limit it to content types. So as you can see, maybe we only want this block to show or not show for jobs available posting. So anytime you're on a page that is of content type jobs available posting, we would tell this block to show only on those content types. Um, there's a lot of use cases for this, and you can maybe imagine some of your own. Okay, I'll give you a quick use case. Let's say that when we're submitting a project, and there's other ways to do this. This is just a quick example. Let's say that, well, okay, we'll just do that. Hold on, I'll save that. Bear with me. So basically, we're just saying I want this block to show on every page but the first, under the roles, just like content types. We can restrict this block's visibility to certain roles. And the visibility, like we talked about earlier, speaks to access control, whereas what we did in another video for user permissions was control the permissions, which is what a user can or cannot do. And we can also say, is this customizable by the user? Can they open it or close it? So right now, I just wanted to illustrate. I'm going to make this show on every page but the first. And if I go down, voila, it is gone. But if I click on any other page here, I should see it, and there it is, because it's told to only show or not show on the first page. So let me go back and undo this. So for a little example, let's pretend that when a client submits a project to the website, or a developer submits a project to the website, let's pretend there's a little special note that we want to tell them when they're on a project submission page. Let me see, let me undo this. Let me just remove that. Okay, let's go to structure, let's go to blocks, and let's just create our own block. In Joomla, this is the same as creating a custom HTML module. Okay, but in Drupal, we're just adding a new block. And you'll notice it gives you a layout much like a page. We'll choose filtered HTML, and we'll say, please note all bids are final once submitted and cannot be changed. Block description, we'll call this bid notification, or I don't know, bid disclaimer, I guess. Again, I'm just kind of making this up. We'll tell this to show on sidebar first, which I happen to know that's your left-hand sidebar. That's what this Bartik theme calls that region. And content types. I only want it to show when we're looking at a piece of content type project submission. So eventually, before it's all said and done, on this page for logged in users, on a project submission page, there's going to be a way for developers to be able to leave a bid. And we basically want this block. Well, let's really narrow it down. Okay, we'll leave it that way for now, but we could narrow it down to where, hey, if a developer's logged in and they're on a project submission page, then show this block. Show that little block we just made. That's what we're wanting to do. So I'm going to go to Find Content, and I'm going to grab one of the project submission pages that was created for us. I'm going to open that in a new window. And you'll notice there is, please note, all bids are final once submitted and cannot be changed. I actually gave a title under the description, but if I want the block to have this title and say bid disclaimer above it, there we go. And so now this should only show on pages that are project submissions. Okay, here's the description of the project. There's their budget, yada yada. Let's go to another page that is not of type project submission. So I'm going to go into this jobs available posting. I'm going to open that in a new window, and I do not see that block. And again, that is because I simply told it to show only on pages that are of the type project submission. But let's narrow that down, because right now a client who is logged in looking at project submission pages, they really don't need to know that notice because they're not there to post bids, they're there to post projects. So I can further narrow this down to say, and only if you're a developer, and I'll go ahead and give it to my administrator, because whenever myself or an admin's logged in, I want us to all be able to see it. And so now I've really isolated it down to only if you're a developer or administrator, and only if you're on the project submission content type generated page can you see this box that says bid disclaimer. So that is very, very powerful. It's a very, very powerful way to make a block and tell it to show, tell it to not show, and then you've got further layers deeper you can go in terms of content types and user roles. Joomla didn't really do that. I know 1.5 certainly didn't. 2.5 and 3.0, they're making advances. But Drupal does this, and it's amazing. It's wonderful. And this is just kind of a glimpse, an overview of blocks, which is you can think of them like bricks. I mean, they really are, things you can build with. And as you can see here, we just made it, dynamic, meaning this thing understands, this block here understands that to show it to me based on what page I'm on and what role I am. Okay, that's pretty cool stuff to be able to do just with a few clicks of a button. So you can build your entire site with blocks. Okay, there are other tools available to you. There's another module we'll cover called panels. There's another module called context. And these are other ways of using Drupal. Um, there, again, I don't know if there's a good way or a bad way. I think there's good ways and better ways with Drupal. If you have a small site, my understanding is, in Drupal 7 at least, blocks is going to be an okay system to use. But if you have a large site, my understanding of how blocks kind of render and work is that Drupal's going to want to go through all of them anyway, because it has to ask, do you want me to show you or not show you? So there's advantages or pluses and minuses to every way. Panels, people who use panels a lot just kind of dispel the notion of blocks, I've noticed. I love panels. I use panels, but I'll also sometimes bring a block in through a panel. So I kind of use a hybrid of the two personally, because I find that it's easier sometimes to give an end user the ability to dive right into a certain piece of content and just change that, and then have my panels that I've made bring that change in. So I know I'm kind of talking some language you may not know yet, which is fine, but I'm just wanting to illustrate. Blocks is a great, very simple, straightforward way to lay out content on your website, top, bottom, left, right. We went over how you can demonstrate your block regions, see what block regions are available, where they're located, and what their names are. And that's how you select which region you want your block to go in the block's administration page here. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else critical to know. When you add other modules, this is good to know. You'll have more blocks available to you sometimes depending on what that module is. So for example, and just off the top of my head, there's a module out there for newsletters. Very, very cool module. And it gives you a block for the sign-up form for the newsletter. Okay, so again, that makes sense. And then you can tell that sign-up newsletter block to maybe show on the bottom or the left or the right or wherever you want. So keep in mind that as you add more modules to your website that do more stuff, we discussed in the last video that your permission list will grow, because now there's more stuff on your website that one can do. So we need to or address the issue, who can do it. And then same thing with blocks. A lot of times when you enable a new module, there's going to be some component of that module that it probably manifests itself in a block format, and you can move it around and such. So that is blocks. That is one way to kind of start building with Drupal. I'm going to probably go over panels a little bit. I might save that for an advanced video. The other module, context, I'll just be honest, I haven't really used it. So I don't think at this point I know enough about it to really do any tutorial. And then we're going to need to dive eventually into an amazing tool called Views, which is probably the #1 most used module in Drupal. I think it, well, I know that 8 is on the horizon, and there's a lot of things changing with it. But we're going to have to go over Views because it also plays a very large part in how we display and lay out content, which circles back around to determine how to display your content. So to that end, this is where blocks can come in handy, because in part of displaying your content, you're going to ask yourself, where do I want stuff to show? Top, bottom, left, right? And blocks is a tool that helps you achieve that. Literally how we're going to display it, top, bottom, left, right, and what pages it's going to show or not show on, and for which user roles. Again, this is a little different than how your website looks in terms of color, background picture, link color, hover over color. That's all in the theming world. That's in the theming layer. That's under this appearance tab. But as I mentioned earlier, that doesn't really speak to how your site functions. So it's very much like a car. When I say the word display here, I'm talking how we're going to functionally display things on the website. So for example, whether our bid notice box shows up or not, that's a functional thing. How that bid box looks, or bid disclaimer I should say, looks, is determined by our CSS that exists in our template. So that's what I mean by display. At this point, I don't mean to imply that display is referring to how it visually looks to your eyeball. Because again, maybe we don't want this to be light gray, maybe we want it to be solid black and the text to be white. That's fine, we can do that, but we do it through the theme layer. We don't really do it through the tools with Drupal, although there are ways you can. There are really cool modules out there to help you dive into stuff like that. But conceptually, at this point, understand when I talk about display, I'm talking functionally how things are going to show themselves. And then the what follows naturally, of course, is okay, once we get them functionally to display themselves like we want, like this bid disclaimer box here, now how do we want that to look? And then that dives into the theme layer. So what is related to this is Views, because Views is going to make nice lists for us that we'll put in this top menu here. For example, show me a list of all the project submissions, and filter them by I don't know, by budget amount, or by date last posted, or most recent post, or date last updated, something to that effect. That's what the Views module is going to help us do. And again, we're speaking to just the functional layout of things, that, hey, I want a link and I want it to show me a page of latest project submissions. Again, how that page winds up finally looking is kind of reserved, in my opinion, for the theming and the styling of the website. So I will conclude the video there. That's a brief overview of blocks. Very, very powerful tool. It's been with Drupal for a very long time, found under structure, content type, blocks, and I still use them. I don't use them as heavily as I used to, but I still think they're fun and useful. So as always, if you like these videos and want me to make more, just subscribe. That lets me know I need to do so. If you've got any comments, criticism, or feedback, I always welcome it. And then I love interaction, so if you have questions, please know to contact me and ask. Thanks again. I will see you on the next video.